What these Epstein victims said yesterday drove Nancy Mace into a full-blown panic attack. Because at members of the House Oversight Committee meeting yesterday behind closed doors with 6 of Epstein's victims, and Mace was spotted leaving early with tears streaming down her face. With her later saying on X, as a recent survivor, I had a very difficult time listening to their stories. Full-blown panic attack, sweating, hyperventilating, shaking, I can't breathe. With her adding, I feel the immense pain of how hard all victims are fighting for themselves because we know absolutely no one will fight for us. Right in her committee, they've been waiting for the DOJ to comply with its subpoena for the full Epstein files for weeks at this point. So far, they've only gotten 33,000 pages, which they just released to the public last night. But also a key thing there is that according to the Democrats on the committee, 97% of the documents were already publicly available. And in fact, according to reports, even some of those appear to be more heavily redacted now than they were when Attorney General Pam Bondi released them earlier this year. And then as far as the 3% that's new, reports say that it's mostly just logs of flight locations for Epstein's plane. Though we also got some more footage from the camera outside of Epstein's cell block the night that he died, which, according to Fox News, fills in the notorious missing minute just before midnight. Footage that also contradicts Bondi's previous claim that the same minute gets deleted every night during a reset. Though it's also unclear why she would lie about that, since it appears that the minute doesn't actually show anything notable anyway. Now, with all that said, according to a committee spokesperson, more files are supposed to be forthcoming from the DOJ, but critics have alleged that the White House is simply stalling to buy time. Or because Congress, they have to pass a funding bill by the end of this month to prevent a government shutdown. And so this whole Epstein file situation, it threatens to block that from happening. And so you have many suspecting that Trump's DOJ, they're trickling out information to make it seem like they're being transparent when they're really not. Which is then also why Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna have launched a full-scale pressure campaign against the White House and their fellow lawmakers to make sure that this issue doesn't disappear. Right? And they're seeking to pass what's called a discharge petition that would force the government to release the Epstein files. And apparently it's this close to happening. Because you have this pair announcing this morning that 212 Democrats and 4 Republicans have signed on, including Massie himself, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Meaning that as I'm recording this, only 2 more lawmakers in the House have to get on board and this thing would pass. So then after that, it would have to go through the Republican-controlled Senate and get signed by Donald Trump, which seems very unlikely. Especially as you had a White House official saying, quote, helping Thomas Massie and liberal Democrats with this would be viewed as a very hostile act to the administration. And actually, one of the arguments we're seeing here is that even if Donald Trump doesn't sign it, at least the entire country will see him not sign it. They will see him and each and every lawmaker who voted no. And their usual excuse that the petition, it doesn't protect the victims who are in the files, it could be a lot harder to rely on after today. Right in that, because this morning, Massie and Khanna brought a group of Epstein's victims, some of whom had never spoken out publicly before, to Capitol Hill to have their voices heard. But then also, in what may have been the biggest bombshell of the morning, one victim revealed that they have the Epstein client list, not the actual list, if that even exists, but rather.
We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know.